Okay, let's unpack this. We hear the word innovation a lot, right?
Hmm.
But when we talk about something as, well, fundamental as endodontic education, is innovation just a trendy buzzword, or is it actually, necessary for real progress?
That's the core question, isn't it? And it's
Definitely.
exactly what this article we're looking at today tackles head on.
Right. So for this deep dive, we're really zeroing in on advanced dental training, specifically endo, and asking, how does it need to change? How does it need to evolve?
And our guide here is a really thought-provoking piece from this year, 2025. It's titled Innovation in Endodontic Education Cliché or Necessity, a perspective on postgraduate training.
By Adam Azim and Katharina Azim in the International Endodontic Journal.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to dig into the challenges they see facing endo education right now.
And then look at the solutions they're proposing.
But critically, what does this all mean for you, the dentist listening, in your day-to-day practice, or maybe for your own future learning? Let's dive in.
Well, the authors, they don't really sit on the fence. They come right out and say innovation in endodontics is absolutely essential, not a cliche at all.
Indispensable, they call it, for transformative change.
Yes. And they link it directly back to the core goals of dentistry itself. It's not just innovation for innovation's sake.
Which is important.
Right. They talk about needing a systematic, sort of comprehensive approach to this innovation.
Yeah.
One that aligns with pushing for better patient care,
Okay.
making sure our education systems are sustainable for the long haul, and driving forward research. It's about rethinking how things are done.
So if I'm boiling it down, any innovation has to serve those three pillars: top-notch patient care, sustainable education, and research-driven progress. Otherwise, it's just noise.
That's precisely their argument.
Yeah.
And they make a strong case that the current traditional ways of doing things, especially in post-grad endo training, are facing some pretty big hurdles.
Hurdles that stop them from fully supporting those pillars.
Exactly. Which is why change is needed.
Okay, so before we get to the problems, what should advanced endo training be aiming for? What are the goals? The article lays out the skills needed for practice.
It's quite comprehensive. The idea is to produce specialists who are real experts in diagnosis and management, dedicated to saving natural teeth, providing advanced patient-centered care, using the latest techniques effectively, communicating really well.
With patients and other dentists.
Yes, and critically analyzing the literature, evaluating new tech, incorporating evidence into practice.
Yeah.
Basically being lifelong learners who understand research.
That's a tall order, a really high standard.
It is. And to get there, the system itself needs certain things. The article points to 4 pillars for the system: competent educators, dedicated students, the right facilities, state-of-the-art ones, and a really solid curriculum.
And this is where they start identifying the cracks, the major hurdles within those pillars. The first one sounds really serious: a shortage of good, dedicated educators.
Oh, it's critical. They paint a, frankly, concerning picture. They mention stats about aging faculty across dentistry for decades now.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, and more recently, like 40% of U.S. dental faculty being over 60. That means a big wave of retirements is coming or already happening.
And vacancies are up.
Dramatically. A huge jump in both full-time and part-time faculty vacancies since the early 2000s. And most aren't getting filled quickly.
Ooh.
And specifically endodontics, it's even worse. Full-time faculty vacancies apparently more than doubled in just a couple of years recently, from 25 to 55.
Doubled. Wow.
And another survey showed most post-grad program directors were over 50, often coming to academia later. And worse, very few endo grads were choosing full-time academic careers.
That's a pipeline problem right there.
It really is. And program directors themselves say their biggest challenge is the lack of qualified educators, over half of them.
So why is it so hard to attract and keep them?
2 big things, according to the article: the sheer cost of education that potential faculty had to bear themselves,
Right, the debt.
and then the huge income difference between private practice and academia. It's just hard for universities to compete financially, especially in specialties like endo, where private practice pays well. It's a global trend, apparently.
Okay, so the educator shortage is huge. What about the students? Hurdles for them,
Well, that cost of education hits them hard, too. It's a massive financial burden,
which must influence career paths.
undeniably.
Ugh.
It pushes people away from academia, which, feeds back into the educator shortage. It's a bit of a cycle.
And the article also mentioned inconsistencies between different programs.
Yes, significant variations. How long programs are, what they require, the structure, it all varies. So naturally, the knowledge and skills graduates have can be inconsistent too.
Even if the core goals are the same.
Right. The depth in teaching or research might differ quite a bit.
And then there's the actual stuff, the equipment. Not all schools have what's needed today.
That's a really key point. You need the right tools for modern training. The article lists things like surgical microscopes, easy access to CBCT.
Apex locators, motors.
Exactly. Various rotary and obturation systems. If trainees don't have consistent access to practice with these essential tools, it definitely compromises their training quality.
So it sounds like even if you have a great educator at one institution, their impact is kind of stuck there. The system struggles to spread that expertise.
That's a major point. There's a disconnect between where the cutting-edge knowledge might be concentrated and, well, everyone else who needs access, whether it's students or practicing dentists.
Which leads us nicely into the solutions they propose. Because these problems aren't getting better on their own.
No, they stress the urgency. They talk about needing collaboration, action, and even disruption.
Disruption. Okay, what kind of disruptive solutions are they talking about?
One big one is really embracing digital platforms. They point out we've already shifted, haven't we? Away from only textbooks and journals towards online resources, social media.
The Coursera era, they call it.
Yeah, and students like it. It's flexible time, place, pace. It fits around life. Big universities are already doing it.
But there are downsides, surely. Just learning random stuff online.
Oh, definitely. Lack of structure, quality control is a huge issue. Who's vetting the content? Bias is a risk. But, and this is the key, when these platforms are managed and curated by skilled educators,
Oh, okay.
they can be incredibly powerful.
So how does this digital shift help you, the listener, the practicing dentist? What's the clinical relevance?
Well, imagine having access to a curated global core curriculum from top endodontists right on your screen. Platforms like that are emerging.
So even if I'm not in a program, I could access high-quality foundational knowledge, keep up with research.
Exactly. And think about remote assessment. You could upload cases, get feedback on your clinical work from experts anywhere, online classes for live interaction. It breaks down geographic barriers.
That sounds incredibly useful for skill refinement.
Hugely. Plus, they mention things like AI translation tools making expert content accessible regardless of the original language. It really opens up the world's knowledge.
Okay, digital platforms are one thing. What else?
Integrating advanced tech directly into the curriculum. Things like 3D printing and mixed reality, the blend of virtual and augmented reality.
Right. How does 3D printing help clinically?
It's pretty direct. You take a patient's CBCT scan, print a realistic 3D model of their tooth or jaw section.
Patient-specific models.
Yes. Then trainees can practice really complex stuff, finding a separated file, fixing a perforation, managing an open apex, or even complex surgical scenarios, all on a realistic model before they touch a patient.
Wow. Risk-free practice on complex actual anatomy. That must build confidence.
Absolutely. It's cost-effective competence building. And then there's mixed reality.
How does that fit in?
It enhances visualization incredibly well. Imagine overlaying the internal anatomy onto a tooth you're working on, or practicing in a fully virtual interactive environment. The article suggests it boosts skill acquisition, helps knowledge stick.
And maybe personalize the training.
Potentially, yes, especially combined with AI. Tailored scenarios based on learning needs. It gets specialists ready for the tech they'll actually use in practice. Might even make training faster.
You mentioned AI. That's another big solution area for them,
A fundamental one. They basically say AI adoption isn't optional anymore. It's a necessity in higher ed and practice.
And its roles in dentistry.
They list a whole range. Helping with diagnosis, case selection, planning treatment, preclinical training, even guiding procedures, calibrating faculty grading, evaluating students, personalized learning plans. It's broad.
Okay, but for the clinician, maybe someone in training or already practicing, what's the direct clinical relevance of AI?
It's mainly about support. AI could help reduce subjectivity in diagnosis. Think identifying subtle periapical lesions, tricky fractures, complex canal anatomy, maybe even helping nail down working length accurately.
Like having a super analytic second opinion.
Kind of, yeah. It could also help select the right instruments for a specific canal morphology, potentially leading to more predictable outcomes.
Predictability is always good.
Always. The authors suggest it could give practitioners that extra bit of confidence, especially on challenging cases.
And AI for grading and assessment.
While mostly for education streamlining things, freeing up educators more frequent, objective feedback on clinical understanding could benefit learners a lot.
Okay, this next one sounds really different. De-institutionalized learning and mentorship programs. What's that about?
This could be a major shift, especially relevant for dentists already in practice who want advanced training, but can't just stop everything for traditional residency.
Tell me more. How would that actually work?
The idea is to create programs for clinicians who already have a practice, or at least access to a properly equipped office. You'd need the microscope, CBCT, motor, apex locator, the works, in your own space.
Right, the necessary tools.
Then, the learning happens through a digital curriculum stuff you study on your own time, asynchronously,
Okay.
mixed with online classes or meetings with your assigned mentor synchronously. The mentor guides your learning.
And the hands-on part, the clinical work.
You do it in your own practice. Maybe start with simulated cases using tech we discussed, then move on to your patients. And your mentor assesses your work remotely, looking at images, scans, maybe videos you upload.
And maybe occasional in-person sessions.
Exactly, for focused guidance. It makes advanced training potentially much more flexible and accessible without needing to physically relocate or stop working full-time in your practice.
That sounds like it could open doors for a lot of people.
That's the hope. It offers a different path to those advanced skills.
Okay, so we've got digital tech integration, AI, mentorship, lots of potentially dispersed ways to learn. How do we maintain quality? Ensure standards. That seems like a challenge.
It's a huge challenge, especially given how much endo programs already vary globally. The article suggests developing universal guidelines, flexible ones, initially focusing on core knowledge, key skills, and access to the right equipment.
Sort of a baseline standard, and how would you assess people against that standard globally?
They propose the idea of a global assessment, maybe through an international board certification process.
An international board. What's the clinical relevance of that for, say, a dentist in a country without a formal endo specialty? Or even one who isn't aiming for that formal title?
It provides a standardized benchmark, a way to evaluate skills and knowledge recognized internationally. For practitioners in places without formal specialty recognition, it's a way to really distinguish themselves, show validated competence.
It could even help push for formal recognition later.
Possibly. They contrast places like the U.S., where board certification isn't mandatory for practice and rates are lower, with Canada, where it is required for specialist status and everyone gets certified. It shows different approaches to ensuring competence.
And doing this globally is feasible now, with remote exams.
That's the idea. Video conferencing, secure online software, maybe local testing centers, even AI helping with creating parts of it. It makes a global system seem much more achievable than it used to be.
So for a dentist, participating would signal a commitment to high standards.
Absolutely. It boosts professional reputation, sure. But more importantly, it gives patients confidence. They know their clinician has met a certain globally recognized level of expertise. The ultimate goal is lifting the quality of endo care everywhere.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've gone through the challenges, the innovative solutions. Why does this deep dive into endodontic education matter to you, the dentist listening right now? What's the so what?
Well, first off, the problems in education, the educator shortage, the inconsistencies, they directly affect the specialists you might refer to or work with. The quality of their training impacts your network.
That makes sense. And more personally.
These solutions we discussed, they might open up new ways for you to learn, more flexible pathways to gain advanced skills, maybe even specialize down the line, without completely disrupting your current practice or life.
It expands options for professional growth.
Definitely. And all this tech, AI, MR, 3D printing, it's not just for training rooms. It's shaping the future of clinical endodontics itself. Knowing about these developments helps you stay current, understand what specialists can do, maybe even adopt some things yourself.
And finally, that push for global standards.
It's ultimately about raising the quality of care for all patients, which benefits everyone in the profession.
So to wrap up, the article's main point is clear. Innovation isn't just a nice-to-have in endo education, it's a necessity, driven by some really serious challenges.
Yeah, the educator shortage, costs, access issues, inconsistencies, they're significant, but the potential solutions are genuinely exciting. Digital platforms, AI, integrated tech like 3D printing, these flexible mentorship models, they offer real hope.
Hope for creating training that's more accessible, maybe more effective, and hopefully more standardized globally.
And remember, these changes in education, they're all ultimately aimed at improving our ability, yours, mine, everyone's, to provide excellent patient-focused care using the best methods we have.
The authors finished by saying, these changes are already happening, but need, strategic organization. So thinking about all this, the tech, remote learning, AI, mentorship, What does a traditional dental school or residency look like in, say, 10 or 15 years?
That's the big question, isn't it?
And how will that profound shift reshape endodontic practice itself for someone like you out there doing it every day? Definitely something to chew on.